How about them apples? As the outdoor farmers market season winds down, you may be wondering what produce is still in season.
Here with the dirt on this week's farmers market and a vendor spotlight, it's today's sponsor with the Land Connection, Joan Jack, farmers market manager, and Rick Weinzierl with Weinzierl Fruit and Consulting LLC. Welcome to both of you.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Well, it is prime apple picking season, so I didn't really know that we had consultants when it came to our apples. So tell me a little bit about what you do.
I used to work for the University of Illinois, and I worked in fruit and vegetable production and pest management. So when I retired, started my own orchard, I needed something to help pay the bills of starting my own orchard. So I do some consulting work for larger commercial farmers in the state, fruit and vegetable farmers.
So your job at the university was to try to figure out ways to keep pests away from our crops?
To control, manage insects in fruits and vegetables, yes.
Okay, and so I'm guessing apples are in season, and they will be featured at tomorrow's market.
Yes, they are in season, and I'm realizing I still have my mask on, so you can understand me. Sorry about that. They are in. You know, Rick will be there. Oh, this week and next week will be his last week. So if you want to get hooked up with these apples, head on over. And we're also going to have them. They're going to be part of our kids kits, which is on the last Tuesday of this month, and it's going to be apple ginger pancakes for the kids.
Good.
Yeah, it's going to be, and the ginger is from a local producer as well.
Is it from Illinois Willows?
Yes.
I saw him post that on
It's going to be delicious, yeah.
Are those the only four you have left?
Oh no, there are others, but they just sort of illustrate small, crispy, crunchy little apple. One that's really a great baking apple. Some folks like yellow apples instead.
Well, walk us through the different varieties that you brought and what they're good for.
Okay, Pixie Crunch is a very small, crunchy apple. Hence
I've
Pixie.
never heard
They're
of
delicious.
that.
Those are my favorite.
I don't grow much of anything that you can find in a grocery store.
Okay.
Did you get to name this?
Oh no.
Oh, okay.
I just planted the trees.
Other than FBI agent, that like naming apples would also be super cool.
Well, the guy who did this, though, was part of a project that the University of Illinois and Purdue and Rutgers developed, started back in the 1940s to breed apples that were better suited to Midwestern and Eastern climates.
Okay.
So it did have some University of Illinois roots, even though it wasn't me.
Pixie Crunch,
Yes.
all right.
Pixie Crunch. Wine Crisp is a really dense, crisp apple that bakes just beautifully. Sundance is more of a tart apple. And this apple I no longer have around, and you'd look at it and say, what in the world is that?
It looks almost like a pear, but in the shape of an apple.
It looks a bit like an Asian pear, or as you would say, a pear. It's an old English heirloom, quote, russet apple. Think of russet as in russet potatoes. And it's got that kind of surface. And there is somewhat of a cult-like following for English russet apples, so this is one of those.
So do you have to pay a premium for that type then to get it?
No.
Well, it's interesting because each of those apples look like different varieties. Like that one obviously looked like Red Delicious, and that one looks kind of like the Golden Delicious. But how many different varieties of apples do you have at your orchard?
I have about a dozen or 15. Obviously, there are hundreds out there. I chose a bunch of apples that are scab resistant and developed specifically for the Midwest, and so that makes them a little different than most of what you'd see in the stores. They're pretty popular at the market, so they've worked out well.
And all of these are available at the market while supplies last over these next few weeks?
Well, some yes. You know, apples develop at different times of the year, so Pixie Crunch is pretty much done now. I've sold it all of September and the first week of October. I'm now into some later apples, but there are several apples available at any time, from sweet and eat out of hand to tart baking apples.
Is your orchard one that people can come and visit and pick apples like all these, fall activities that families want to do? Or is this just, you're going to find me at the market?
You're going to find me at the market. You can go to Curtis. They do a great job with the orchard.
Different businesses, right?
This is just a very small operation, but I take apples to the market.
Joan, talk about the Kids Kit. I know you mentioned what's in it, but how do people participate and make these at home?
So Kids Kit is free. You come to, it's always on the last Tuesday. Well, this is going to be our last one for this season, but then when we go indoors, it's always going to be on the last Saturday. Well, we have a table set up. People can come, pick it up. It includes a recipe card that links you to a video that shows a kid making the recipe. So it's all kid-friendly. It's geared for kids. So ginger apple pancakes, I think that maybe I'll be making some of those with my daughter.
Yeah, okay.
Sounds amazing.
Rick, we're out of time. What's your go-to apple dish?
Apple Crunch.
Yes.
Sign me up. I'd go for some apple crunch.
Speaking of it, Pixie Crunch sounds like a wonderful breakfast cereal. So we could work that out too. I'd appreciate that. Hey, the Farmers Market tomorrow in Champaign from 3 to 6. All the details on our website, CILiving.tv. We do appreciate the Land Connection for sponsoring today's segment.